What's up guys, Jake Lowry here, and today we are very excited because we are going to be exploring some of my old stomping grounds from where I grew up. We are here back in my hometown of Maryland, I guess home state, and we are with Gracie, and then we also have the dogs, and we're gonna be just exploring some of the bass fishing spots I grew up fishing, which makes me really excited because some of the fishing in Maryland is actually very underrated. Now, the spot we went to today is a lake that's about 25 minutes from my house I grew up in. One Rod, One Reel is also from Maryland, and he fishes this lake as well. It has some pretty decently large bass, and it's probably the best body of water that is public to fish in my entire area. Before we get into the fishing, let me know what you guys think of these types of videos. These are some of my favorite kinds of videos to film. Like this video if you are enjoying the variety of settings, and then also subscribe if you have not. Gracie, do you want to catch a fish today?
Yes.
All right, guys, this is the first spot of the day. The water is actually significantly lower than I remember. I haven't been back here in 3 years, but this is essentially a rocky point outcropping that goes pretty far into the main lake area of this reservoir. It is a great spot to get a good vantage point of kind of what's going on with the fishing today, and then just get a good starting point. Rosie is a particular fan of this fishing spot. I'm actually surprised she's doing that because it is cold as balls. Gracie's a trooper today. Action shot. Tony, what are you thinking of all this? All right, guys, we're gonna use 2 rods today. I have my medium heavy bait casting rod and then my spinning rod. And we're gonna keep the tackle strategy very simple. There is one bait in particular on the bait casting rod that is going to work super well. So why don't we get this thing out and check it out. So first things first on the bait caster, in November, December time in the Northeast, I remember only one bait being worth throwing, and that is a red lipless crankbait right there. So we're gonna get that thing out. And then the other bait that I also wanna throw on the spinning rod is gonna be a shad style jerkbait, because I know there are an absolute ton of shad in this body of water, and they actually get pretty big for as far north as we are. So we're gonna be imitating bait fish, and we're also gonna be imitating crawfish today. All right, let's get this box put up right here. Hard baits are gonna be, I think, the initial name of the game today, and the reason I am under that impression is because the water is cold and we are in wintertime conditions. This is not Kansas no more, and we are not going to be getting away with throwing summertime shad style spinner baits, fast moving baits. We're going to be throwing all types of wintertime tactics, which, to be honest, the winter time can be some of the best, most fun fishing around here, because I feel like your odds of hooking into a healthy big fish improve by quite a bit. All right, there's that red lipless crankbait rigged up. I have this on 15-pound fluoro, which would be about the lightest fluorocarbon I like to use now. In Texas is actually kind of heavy for this body of water, which is funny, just the different tactics. So next rig is this 6 cents jerk bait. Let's get this thing tied on. You just saw a fish? How big?
I just saw a flash.
Okay guys, so Gracie's already spotting fish. That is a good sign. Where did you see it? Right here?
Yeah.
All right, let's see it. Let's see if we can catch one. This style of fishing really makes itself and is a proponent of catching more numbers and catching less kind of amounts of large fish. Like, unfortunately for the Texas anglers, there's really no odds for me to catch a 10-pounder today. But we do have odds to hook into some nice fish. which is not a necessarily common thing this time of year in this state. Gracie looks like she's really warm.
Yeah.
This is actually like, would be a really good spot to fish at when this is all covered in water. This like rocky outcropping, don't you think? Let's see, there's a good laydown right here. Get on top of this rock. It's always fun to fish like this as well. Kind of just bank bombing and hiking around, exploring. It's probably one of my most favorite ways to fish, and it's, I mean, what I grew up doing. All right, I think we're gonna let Tony follow the lead on this one and go over to this rocky outcropping over here. Sometimes this time of year, if I cast parallel to the bank, it looks or works out very, very well. And it's not too common in this lake to be casting towards the bank. And whoa, I'm about to fall. And the reason for that is there is no boat ramp to access this lake this time of year. There he is. Fish. Oh no. This might be a problem. Oh no. Okay, Gracie, I messed up. No, I didn't snag him. Okay, come here. The reason this is a problem is these things have teeth, and this is like a million treble hooks. Uh-oh. Okay, watch out, Rosie. All right, there we go. That is the first fish of the day. Literally less than 5 minutes of fishing. That is a nice Maryland pickerel. I was not planning on catching these today. Whoa! Look down its mouth. There's a hook in its mouth. That is not my hook. That is hilarious. Do you see that? I don't think I've ever caught that before.
Can you take it out?
I'm not gonna be able to. I don't have pliers. I couldn't even get my own hooks out. All right, let's get this guy released. I'm honestly surprised that I caught a fish this quickly into the day. I'm hoping he is able to get back in the water quickly. Those are some pretty hardy fish, but that is a badass start to the day. I wasn't expecting to catch a fish that quickly.
How are you using the barbs of death without
Gracie is not happy with me.
pliers?
I know, I messed up. I don't have my full like tackle kit. My pliers are in my kayak. I don't typically need, like if I'm using treble hooks, you don't really need pliers for bass. But if you have a toothy creature like that, you're gonna need pliers. But fortunately, for me, those things are pretty hardy. It's not like I'm catching a trout. And they're actually like, they don't die that easily, which is kind of nice. It's like catching a pike. It would be nice to catch a bass. I know I caught a fish, but a bass is kind of the more target species for today. A pickerel is kind of an easier fish to catch. Guys, please don't fall in the water. This is a good jerkbait spot, but it's gonna be kind of hard to throw the jerkbait in there. So let's pick up the bait caster here. You know you have a good fall spot when you have a trail of leaves. That means the wind is kind of accumulating leaves in this area, and the fish should be blown underneath of them. It would be a classic for this spot to only catch a pickerel all day long of fishing. This lake is just so big that the bass have so much water depth and mobility that sometimes fishing from the bank when it's cold and the fish aren't necessarily going to be on the bank can be really, really difficult. All right, guys, there's been a minor change of plans. We're gonna walk back to the car and drop the dogs off, and then we're gonna go test out a different spot that I think has better odds for us to catch a fish. This is kind of like a more summertime nature-y spot. The next spot is a more neighborhood, might get kicked out of spot. So kind of testing it with the next spot, but I'm pretty excited to see if we can't get into some historic fish that I would have caught maybe 5 to 10 years ago, to show you guys kind of what I grew up on fishing. All right, guys, so we have arrived at the next spot. This one is questionably whether or not I can fish here. It's just one of those spots that I used to fish at all the time growing up, but sometimes the residents in this neighborhood can be a little finicky when it comes to fishing access, and it's been a couple years since I've been here, so I'm not really sure what the situation is, but we should have like better odds to hook into something if okay, there's an old lady. Definitely don't want to be seen by any old people, so let's just go down this way. We are very in a questionable spot. Where there's questionability about fishing, there are big fish, and this is by far where I caught the most big fish in my time in Maryland, so I'm pretty excited. We're gonna start at this lower pond here. There's a little outfall where there's a bunch of current that the fish sometimes hang out at, and we can walk around this lower pond. In my experience, much better dealing with the residents on this side of the pond versus up there, which is why we're gonna be over here right now. So let's see if we can get something kind of right in here. Water is way clearer than I remember, which could be a good thing. But usually like kind of along these banks here, and shallow too. Seems shallower than I remember as well. Picked up some algae on that cast. But usually along these banks here where it's all brushy is really good. And I used to have success kind of back in this corner. I've caught some like 4, maybe 5 pound fish in these little ponds. So we do have a good chance to hook into stuff today. We might have to change the strategy just a little bit because it seems more clear and then also more shallow than I remember. Sometimes this red is just a little bit too flashy for these fish. See over here. Yeah, I'm switching this up for a couple reasons. The first reason is that I'm pretty much getting grass every cast, and then the second reason is I have to fish it way faster than I would like. I got more Guggen clickbaits than I could ever want or need, but that looks like a good color right there. So I'm gonna actually put on the clickbait, and I think it might actually be pretty well suited for this pond because it's a shallower diving chatterbait, and this pond seems a lot shallower than I remember. So I think it actually might work out pretty well. Ooh. That was a nice 1.5 pounder. He's a lot closer to the bank than I was expecting. Spooked the crap out of him though. This used to be the spot like I could go to and like for certain catch fish. Like I would go to this spot pretty much with 30 minutes to fish and be like expecting to catch 2 or 3 fish. Which is why I just felt like I had to come back here while I was here. Some bluegill sitting right there. They seem to be kind of basking in the sun, which is a phenomenon that will happen here when it's really cold in the winter and that sun gets strong. The fish will actually come up shallow to where they can get some sun, almost like a reptile, and get warm. That seems to be what that fish was doing. Oh, and that would explain it. Whoa, I don't know if that was a fish or what. That would explain why the water's clear and there's no vegetation. There's like a 30-pound grass carp sitting just right there. This wind is nuts. This ain't Texas. Holy! All right, not a very ideal setup because this thing is so light, but I have the Guggen jerkbait tied on here and 15-pound fluorocarbon line. So we're gonna see if maybe these fish want to eat a jerkbait a little better. I think they're pretty sluggish fish right now, and I don't think they're gonna want to eat much anything that's moving quite a bit. All right, with my limited time, I'm not gonna fish just shallow water. I wanna go back up to this first lake I walked by and see what the situation is like. I think it's a little deeper right off the main dam right here. And I also think the wind is blowing in that positive direction. Maybe if I get to that pipe at an angle. There he is. Finally! Last second. Last second. Oh, that is a surprise catch, but not really. That is a slab crappie. Every species other than bass. Man, that is a nice looking crappie right there. He is cold too. And he absolutely destroyed that jerkbait. Man, does that feel good to be able to be successful, come back after 3 years and be successful at 2 of the 2 spots that I go to from my hometown, man. I still got it. I still got the Maryland fishing dialed. It's been a minute, but the amount of time I put into fishing in Maryland, man, it feels good. All right, guys, that is going to wrap up the video. I hope you guys enjoyed as much as I did going and exploring some of the spots I grew up fishing. Was a relatively successful day. We caught a pickerel and a crappie. We did end up catching a bass, which was the target species, but November in the fall and this time of year can be really difficult for bass fishing in, the Northeast. That said, if you guys like this video, make sure to like this video, subscribe if you haven't, and I will catch you guys next time. If you enjoyed that video, check out my YouTube channel where I have a bunch of fishing and outdoors related videos. Also, don't forget to click subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss on any future videos.